welcome back to Blue Flag Bandits, the series that runs through the Codemasters F1 games from 2010 to the present day, whenever that may be, usually in the desperate hunt for points. But you join us in China for round 3 of 2012, and as you can see, in the HRT, we already have points on the board, 15 of them, to be precise. And I'd love to say that round 1 in Australia was all for the content, to make it look like we were going to have a really tough season and it was going to be such a slog and it was really going to be difficult to match 2011, let alone beat it. But it wasn't. Australia was really just me driving terribly. Malaysia, on the other hand, a whole different ball game. We qualified 20th, got 19th, thanks to the fact that Michael Schumacher was disqualified from qualifying, and were 3rd by the end of the first lap. Then everybody went into the pits at the end of lap 1. Double stacking, everything. Really messed up the order. And even after our pit stop, we came back out in 4th. We were sat just behind Sergio Perez, Nico Hülkenberg, and Romain Grosjean. Grosjean led the way by a fairly comfortable margin, and Perez was in behind him, and Hulk was 3rd. And then he retired, because the curse of Nico Hülkenberg clearly works mysterious ways in F1 2012. And then we held off the likes of Schumacher, Rosberg, Raikkonen, Hamilton, and Kobayashi to end the Malaysian Grand Prix in 3rd, which means that we're 7th in the drivers' standings, just 13 points off Lewis Hamilton, and a few more off Romain Grosjean, whose victory propelled him to the top of the standings. Webber went from 1st to 3rd in the space of a race after having a pretty poor one. Perez finished 2nd and moved up to 4th. Then Rosberg and Button are ahead of us. We're level on points with the 2009 world champion, ahead of Fernando Alonso, Sebastian Vettel, our 2011 champion, and Michael Schumacher, with Kobayashi, Massa, Ricciardo, Hülkenberg, and Maldonado rounding out the point scorers. You may be thinking, there's only one Lotus. The other one of Kimi Raikkonen is down in 18th. He's in 2 pretty terrible races, just behind De Resta and Verne, who've bettered him on results, but ahead of Bruno Senna, Vitaly Petrov, Timo Glock, Heikki Kovalainen, Charles Pic, and our teammate Pedro de la Rosa, who took our spot in last place. And post-race, you'll see there's a 25th driver on there. That's Narain Kartikeyan, who may be included should we take spot 1 from Pedro de la Rosa. I think the game then puts the second driver in the second car, which would be Kartikeyan. In the constructors, as I've done that for the second race running, McLaren lead the way, but just ahead of Lotus and Red Bull, who are level on points. There's Sauber in 4th after a couple of great rounds. Mercedes are in 5th, with Ferrari down in 6th, being chased by us 3 points behind in 7th HRT. Then it's Toro Rosso, Force India, and Williams with points. Caterham and Russia without any so far. So yeah, Malaysia was fantastic, and actually gives me a little bit of hope, because if you remember back to the start of 2011, we had a fairly mad race, fairly mild first couple of races actually, but with no pace, no real kind of fight amongst the main established cars. If you remember back to 2010, we took points on debut and then went on a bit of a terrible run till about mid-season when we started picking up points again. We've already beaten our total from 2011, that won 4th place in Singapore, bettered by 1 3rd place in 2 rounds in 2012. So I'm going into China with a fair amount of confidence. Shanghai has actually been fairly kind to us in Blue Flag Bandits so far. One of only, I said 3 at the end of the last round, one of only 4 races where we've made it out of Q1 in both seasons we've competed. We got a 15th in 2010 and an 11th in 2011. The other places, Germany, Belgium, and Italy, the only other places we've managed to get out of Q1 in every season. Only got out of Q1 5 times last season. Race results in China, though, haven't necessarily gone to plan. 20th in 2010 and 19th back in 2011. So, not the happiest hunting ground in race trim, but already demonstrating that 2012 AI, even on Legendary, a little bit more circumspect than 2011 AI on Legendary, but also prone to their own incidents and strategy mishaps. Because two stopping in Malaysia clearly wasn't the one. One stopping seemed to work much better. But China could offer something completely different. We might find ourselves nowhere. But you know what? Let's head to Shanghai and get some practice in. It looks like we might even have an R&D to do here. And while we do that, we'll talk about the real world 2012 Chinese Grand Prix. The Chinese Grand Prix was the third round of the 2012 season, and much like the first two rounds, there was talk around the legality of the Mercedes car. After the car was deemed legal in Malaysia, Red Bull were requesting further clarification while Lotus filed an official protest. The FIA would reject the protest, with Lotus confirming they'd not appeal any further, stating the car was legal. Lewis Hamilton would suffer a 5-place grid drop after McLaren were forced to change his gearbox for the race. The sessions were uneventful affairs, though it would be a mix of McLaren and Mercedes leading the way through all three sessions, Hamilton leading the first and third, with Schumacher finishing top in the second. It would only be the second session where a Red Bull infiltrated the top three, Vettel finishing that session in third. Qualifying saw the same bottom seven as Malaysia, with Jean-Eric Vergne joining Caterham, Marussia and HRT in the elimination zone. Vettel and Massa would only make it through in 15th and 16th, both seemingly struggling in Shanghai. They'd both find themselves out in Q2 as well, lining up 11th and 12th, making this race the first time since Brazil 2009 that Vettel would not start inside the top 10. Those guys seemingly were struggling because of high track temperatures, but in the final part of qualifying, the track would cool down. Rosberg would go out and set a blistering lap time early doors, the fastest of the weekend so far. He was so confident in the time that he got out of his car with 2 minutes to go to watch everybody else have a go at beating it. Everyone would fall short, with Hamilton coming closest, though he'd start in 7th after his penalty. Schumacher would set the third fastest time and start second, with Kobayashi in 4th, later 3rd. Mercedes cars would lead comfortably away while Kobayashi would fall backwards. Alonso and Webber would spend multiple corners in the first lap side by side, while Senna would get slight damage to his front wing after hitting the back of Massa's Ferrari, but the first lap would otherwise be fairly instant through. Vettel was struggling, then in 14th place, his car seemingly lacking pace, while Webber would be the first to pull the trigger on pit stops. He'd set fast lap times as soon as he got back out of the box, nudging others into making their stops. Hamilton and Raikkonen would go out side by side, but Hamilton was a nose ahead and would slot just in front of the Lotus. Schumacher would find himself retiring, however, after his pit stop, a miscommunication meaning he left the box before the right front was completely fitted. It'd be the only retirement of the Grand Prix, especially galling considering his Mercedes were by far and away the class of the field. The race would kind of settle down into multiple DRS trains as everybody took on differing strategies to make it to the end. Very few incidents and major overtakes. It would eventually be Rosberg who cruised to his first victory in Formula 1, some 20 seconds clear of Button, who had a fairly quiet day in second. Vettel was close to claiming third, but his tyres would fall off, costing him a position to Hamilton, and then even 4th place to Webber. Grosjean, Senna, Maldonado, Alonso and Kobayashi would complete the top 10. after such an incredible Malaysian Grand Prix for our HRT, will we continue with a stellar qualifying here? The answer's probably no, to be honest. It's certainly a confidence boost to have come in after a podium, but much like the last race, pace is not good, and with a long back straight will be at a massive disadvantage once again. But I'm yet to qualify ahead of the other backmarker teams, and I really need to get back on that train. So let's try and aim for 19th here and see if we can actually make it sooner rather than later that we get back in front of them. Hopefully, this time, we'll actually get that top spot for the back six.
We've modified the car's exhaust system. The engine should wear less than normal.
In the garage then, for qualifying at the Chinese Grand Prix.
Getting into the next session, so don't push too hard.
Engineer Andy there saying we should get into Q2, kind of warped by that P3 result in Malaysia. Practice didn't really yield any major information. It was a inter-session that got wetter and then got dry at the end, so we ended up last because we did our run while it was still raining. We have got an improvement to the car though, not something that's massively speed based, but just overall performance and wear based, which is something. Any improvements we can make to this car over the course of this season are going to be handy. But will third time be unlucky? Will we make it out of Q1 for the third consecutive Chinese Grand Prix? Or will this be the first one we drop out? Let's go out, do some laps, see what happens.
You're up to 9th with that last lap time. Okay, you need to come in before you run out of fuel. Pit within 2 laps. Your times in Sector 1 are really good, but you're losing quite a bit of time in Sector 3. We're below where we wanted to be. We're 2 places inside the drop zone. You're starting in 19th tomorrow.
And our first Q1 knockout in China in 3 attempts. We'd be alright in the first couple of sectors, and then we'd lose all of our time in the power sector at the end of the lap. But for the first time this season, we out-qualify the other backmarker teams. We're ahead of Glock, Peak, De La Rosa. Kovalainen had a pretty bad day. Then in 23rd, ahead of Vitaly Petrov in the other Caterham. Jean-Eric Verne, the man that drops out with us. But as you can see, 1.5 seconds clear of us still. And 2 seconds behind Pastor Maldonado. Kimi Räikkönen in 16th there, having another bad day at the office in the Lotus. But yeah, P19, we're back in our traditional spot. It's been a couple of rounds. We started here last round because of Schumacher's disqualification, and we were 20th in Australia. But as we proved in Malaysia, starting down here doesn't really matter as long as we can get a good run off the line. Let's see what happens here in Shanghai. Let's head to the race. Welcome then to the garage for the Chinese Grand Prix of 2012 P19. Kind of where you'd expect, really. Team wanted 14th after the result in Malaysia, I think, skewed the objective there, but we were never going to get out of Q1. We were so far off even Jean-Eric Verne, who was just ahead of us, that, you know, any higher than P19 was going to be a bonus. We have, however, for the first time this season, out-qualified the other new teams, the Caterhams, the Marussias, and Pedro de la Rosa in the other HRT. So at least we're back on that run. After the past 2 reigns, we've been out-qualified by at least just Kovalainen. In fact, not just at least just Kovalainen in the Caterham. But let's take a look at the grid, and then we'll talk about what we're going to be looking for out of China. It is a pole position for Fernando Alonso ahead of Sebastian Vettel. Mark Webber is in 3rd, and then it's Jenson Button in 4th. Maldonado with a fantastic P5 ahead of Lewis Hamilton. Kimi Raikkonen finally getting in the top 10 there in 7th, alongside championship leader and teammate Romain Grosjean. There's Paul di Resta and Nico Rosberg rounding out the top 10. Schumacher 11th, better qualifying for him. Perez and Kobayashi are ahead of Massa, who's having a bad day again. Bruno Senna in 15th, and it's Hulkenberg, Ricciardo. Jean-Eric Verne's Toro Rosso came out in Q1 with us. We're ahead of Glock, Peak, De La Rosa, Kovalainen and Petrov. And well, you know, Malaysia was something incredibly special. We just got the start, and then the AI decided end of lap 1 was a great time to pit. Everyone, all 23 other cars on track, went into the pits. I can't imagine that's going to be the same here in China. If it is, man, we're going to be in for a great season. But I can really anticipate this being a more normal race, more normal strategy for the AI. We're not particularly quick in the 3rd sector, which is obviously where the DRS is, and people are going to be using curves down the back straight. Much like Malaysia, though, not a long run to turn 1, so positions to be gained early on. I think, you know what, I think we're going to aim outside of 19th. Let's aim for like 15th. I reckon we saw a couple of retirements we've seen in Australia, at least the AI have their incidents, and you know, if we do end up with another weird strategy call from the AI where they all pit in early, then maybe we'll make up some places. But let's head over to the grid for the 2012 Chinese Grand Prix. There's Alonso. Sat on pole. Red Bull next to him. There we are. You can just about see De La Rosa in the background. 2 Caterhams behind him. It's a normal back of the grid this time round.
After your points finished last race, let's keep the momentum going.
Engineer Andy offering encouragement as the 5th light comes on. Andy's out as soon as it comes on. And away we go in China. Verne gets a fantastic start. We're going to be under pressure from Timo Glock. Kovalainen's had a really great start. He gets ahead of us. In fact, we're getting beaten out by both Marussias and one of the Caterhams for a brief period, but the AI then all concertina up. And we're up to 14th at the moment. Make that 13th, 12th. We have to dive through the middle of a couple of cars. And are we gonna be in the top 10 again, as we've got both Mercedes to our left? Oh, Schumacher backed off. It basically came to a stop right in front of us, but we're up to P11. The launch off the line wasn't great, but we managed to compensate through 1 and 2. We've got a yellow flag. Somebody's come off behind us. Might have been Perez, because there's now Massa behind us as the 2 Mercedes make contact. Michael Schumacher being forced out the way by his teammate. Getting the wheel tracks of the Mercedes off the banked right-hander at the top of the back straight, but not enough. Massa's going to be all over us. We'll just sort of shuffle off to the right. and then ease back in. The racing line ran a little deep into the hairpin, but we're okay. Somebody way off the back there. No retirements, so whoever it was left the track and then got back on. I feel like it might have been Perez, as Mass is going to go easily by. Somebody looking up our inside as Schumacher's compromised, and we get past him and Massa as he held Massa up massively there. Mass. That made no sense, but you know what I mean, held up Massa hugely and was dove down the inside. And we're into P10, we're into the points. Second race running. So in Malaysia, it is just a case of sort of sitting in front of them a little bit. As Schumacher is going to be having a go. Rosberg looking at the Lotus ahead of him. I'm not sure which Lotus that is. Might be Kimi Räikkönen, you know. Focus on Schumacher for a minute. DRS isn't available till about halfway down the straight. The rear nearly went on me there though. I think he's going to be trying to get out the inside there. He'll be gone before he even gets to the DRS line. Verne goes the other side of me. Lose 2 places in very short order. Can we get back at the inside of either of them? We do tap Verne, and we do get back at the inside.
When overtaking, otherwise we might get a penalty.
A late lunge, but it worked. That's all that matters. Hold P10, no penalties either. Mentioned in the last episode, and I think earlier in this one as well. The 1 point score in 2011. We had a couple of other opportunities in 2011 that we didn't take. Either through mistakes or just sheer lack of pace.
To overtake.
Try and stick to the inside of it. He's already gone before he gets to the DRS line. Nobody else is anywhere near to close up. This time I think Verne too far ahead at the hairpin. And again we close right up to the Frenchman. But he'll be gone now, I think. Or also better than we are. Especially if I run wide at the last corner and then the rest is going to be on us. When the rest tries to squeeze through a gap that was always going to close. Schumacher now on me. I don't think he got DRS though. He might have done. I'm trying to work out whether that's just his pace. Oh, it might just be his pace in comparison, as we too busy looking behind us, get late on the brakes. And a little deep into the hairpin. De Rest is there, Mass is there. In the final corner again, really just struggle getting that right. And this game auto slows you if you run off. Schumacher's through.
Likely to be running in fuel conservation mode. His times will be slightly slower than normal.
Trying a bit of a cheeky move though. Take that position back and we make it. Somehow make it work.
With 7 places up on our predicted finish. Come on, keep going.
So much faster off that corner. Just kind of sat in Schumacher's way, but De Rest, again, he also gets caught. Massa's going to have a go. See, when they've got DRS open, they're trying to sort of pick a side as we run wide through the hairpin. And the cars wiggle. I think that's a Kobayashi there as well in the Sauber.
And we think Verne is due to pit within the next 5 laps.
Really back off into the last corner, which gives Michael Schumacher an opportunity, but we just hold the Mercedes out.
Schumacher's right behind you. The gap to the car behind is less than a second. Be aware he may use DRS in an attempt to pass.
Then Schumacher again. Yeah, we'll just sort of sit on the racing line, and the AI don't really know what to do with that.
You need to increase the gap. You're within 1 second of the car behind. He will use DRS.
Another lap, another Michael Schumacher dive, but this time finds the space. He goes by Di Resta's trying to go around the outside. Not going to work there. Looks like Verne before him. Schumacher's through and can hold me off at the hairpin. Cars in the background going in the pits as Di Resta looks up the inside. We'll just cover that one off. She's come in for another couple of laps yet. At the same time with a lot of these guys. Again, have to get on the rich mix. Just hold Di Resta off. Matt is actually behind Kobayashi. They're both going to try and overtake here. Kobayashi's lost a bit of front wing. Trying to go to the outside of me. Hold Di Resta off and then accidentally open the steering out the hairpin. Di Resta will squeeze us. We're a little bit off the circuit there and get back past. But
we're doing really well. 6 places up on where we expected to finish.
Well, maybe wasn't quite alongside, but it was close enough for Di Resta to see me.
Looks like the car behind has a small amount of damage to his front wing. We don't think it's affecting his performance, so keep pushing. We think the car behind is running on full revs. He's trying to close the gap.
Comes Kamui Kobayashi, even with damage, so much faster that we just sort of drift into the middle of the road. Okay, I really don't understand what to do, but this time Koba's going to go at the inside. Get him on the brakes into the hairpin and hold him off. We get a little wide out the final corner.
You've lost
And we're
your
stuck.
front wing. If you can nurse the car back to the pits, we'll fit a
We're
replacement.
so far away from the pit lane. So we're going to have to drag our way all the way back. This is going to be a race like Australia then. Back to earth with a bump. Then by the looks of it here in China. But let's try and end strong. So far neither Caterham has stopped, nor have either Marussia, nor has Pedro de la Rosa. So who knows, we might be able to pick off a couple of these guys. The line might be out of our reach, although cars are heading in. And that might actually be Kovalainen, Charles-Pic. Petrov, if so, would have to carry on. So they're going to beat me out of the pits here.
The car ahead has just fitted prime tyres, going for a longer stint between stops.
Will, however, get back in front of Charles-Pic. Are we going to be quick enough to get back past Heikki Kovalainen? Might be now. Up the inside of the Caterham.
Petrov is due to pit soon. He should be pitting within the next 5 laps.
Petrov is going to be coming in, you think, this lap. Senna maybe as well, although I think Senna had already pit. Got myself an ambitious target here.
Kovalainen's right
Not gone
behind
well.
you.
Set a traditional target in the last round in Malaysia.
Car behind is on standard revs. Car behind is running standard revs.
Well, closer than he was last lap, and the DRS is going to come into effect. He's not going to get close enough, even with me going a bit deep into the hairpin. Looks like Petrov's continued to stay out, or has he? Yeah, looks like he has. Petrov's in the pits. He enters the pits just as we get into the hairpin. P19 should be ours fairly easily here. We don't spin through the final corner, and we don't. Petrov's only just stopped.
The option tyre. They're going with the option tyres.
On the faster tyre. Proved to be a problem. But we'll see what happens. He falls behind Kovalainen. Well, Caterham play a team game here to catch me. It's not for points, so if they do get past, it's not going to affect our standings too badly, at least compared to them. Got a strong range here today. Nearly lose the rear there. With these curves, just want to make you spin. I'll bring Kovalainen right back into our mirrors. Senna's in the pits and he's leaving now, so we're not going to threaten the Williams. Like we're probably going to get laps here as well. Peaks even in front of Petrov, that's helpful. Wide into turn one. Kovalainen gets back past us at least briefly. Squeeze him out on the exit too. Really rough lap or so.
Just taken 19th.
I can see, I think I saw a Ferrari in behind Heikki Kovalainen, and if so, that's what it is. Just caught a glimpse of it. That'll be Fernando Alonso, I think, the leader. Going to come put a lap on us, so that's going to back Kovalainen up a bit. He moves out the way.
Okay, we need you to make way for the car behind.
We need to move. Alonso will just breeze past with the DRS. We nudge the Spaniard along. Lap down. Little less time to have to hold off Kovalainen than Petrov. Petrov has closed in after passing Charles Peak.
We think the car behind is running on full revs. He's trying to close the gap.
Kovalainen desperately trying to close in. Real world 2010, 2011 and 2012 saw Team Lotus / Caterham win the new team battle. Our slightly altered timeline has only happened once, and that was 2011. At the moment, while only after 2 rounds, 15 points behind HRT, they finished 80 points behind Virgin Racing in season 1. Each of the last 2 seasons, one of their drivers finished 24th and last in the driver's standings, that driver being Jarno Trulli, who has made way for Vitaly Petrov. Kovalainen's about to be caught by a bunch of leaders. Vitaly Petrov is there as well, he's closing to the back of us too. Kovalainen with DRS. Not very close enough at the end of the straight though. Quite the car superiority we've had in the last 2 years against our nearest rivals. It's going to be a bit more of a fight when we are on track together.
You need to let the car behind you.
I haven't really felt quick in China, if I'm honest. Jensen Button closes on us. Back off and let him up the inside. There he goes. Through goes JB. Felt better in Malaysia, obviously. Although defending third place is likely to have...
You currently have a 3-second gap between you and the car
to that.
behind. 3 seconds.
Defending 19th isn't quite so glamorous, but for HRT, defending a 19th with
Blue flag conditions. Let the car immediately
been
behind
something back in the
through. You're
day.
not racing him.
as Webber's going to come past, I'm going to stay right to the left-hand side. That will allow Webber to just cruise by with DRS. As I said, back in episode 41, the intro to 2012, in the real world, the best result HRT had in 2012 was at 15th place for Carter Cayenne at Monaco. Off the top of my head, that might have even been their joint best result ever. Kovalainen's fallen way off getting lapped. We're going to lose some time as well, trying to move out of Kimi Raikkonen's way. AI when lapping, really not very smart. Move out of both of their way, that will cost them huge amounts of time as Hamilton goes through, basically comes to a complete standstill.
5 seconds ahead of Kovalainen.
At least Sebastian Vettel is the man behind us.
Okay, we need you to make way for the car behind.
Sebastian at the
We
inside.
think the car behind is running on full revs. He's trying to close the gap.
Vettel backs off as I try and move right out the way, pushes Rosberg off. I think that's Rosberg anyway. Kovalainen right back to within 2 seconds of us again, because trying to let the slightly brain dead AI through.
You need to let the car behind you pass. He's not
As
racing
well.
you for position.
Should, I was going to say, should still be slow enough for Rosberg to get by, but no.
Blue flag conditions. Let the car immediately behind through. You're not
Okay,
racing him.
there we go. And back off again a little bit once he's passed, just to make sure that enough room going into the final corner. Set of blue flags, this time for Pastor
We need to
Maldonado.
keep up the pace. The gap to the car behind is 4 seconds.
To the outside through here. Managed to let a couple of guys through
Okay,
that
we
way
need you to
earlier.
make way for the car
And we
behind.
do. Championship leader Romain Grosjean, so I'm going to cut across him a little bit to allow him to get to the inside there. We're definitely going to lose that championship lead. A bunch of cars behind us that are going to be lapping, so gap to Kovalainen's going to yo-yo. Haven't got anywhere near lapping our fellow backmarkers this season. Went through quite the run of it, obviously, 2011. The two Caterhams lying astern next to each other. Petrov on faster, fresher tyres. We start our final lap in China, and we're going to have leaders to move out of the way of.
Kovalainen's lapping much slower than you. There's a second a lap difference in your times. He's dropping back.
We are P19 at the moment. Have to try and move out of the way of these guys.
You need to let the car
Third
behind
and
you
Rosberg,
pass. He's
I
not
think.
racing you for position.
There goes Jean-Eric Verne. There goes Schumacher.
Up your pace. The car behind's catching you.
And Kovalainen's now once again right on us. We've got a Ferrari behind them. I assume that's Felipe Massa. Fernando Alonso takes the victory. Third winner in 3 races this season. Joins Webber and Grosjean with victories. He made one silly mistake and lost a front wing as Kovalainen backs off to let Massa through.
Blue flag conditions, let the car immediately
Silly
behind
mistake.
through. You're not
Cost us a
racing
few
in.
spots, but I don't think it was enough spots to worry too much that we've cost ourselves points. Just maybe a decent-ish result as Massa goes flying by, quite close as well. But we'll follow the Ferrari down the back straight. Kovalainen too far back, so we're not going to be challenged. We will, in a normal-ish race, finish ahead of the Caterhams, the Marussias and the HRT of Della Rosa. We will round the final corner to take P19 in China. Maybe not our best finish, but certainly one of our better ones. So there we are, P19 in Shanghai, just ahead of Kovalainen, Petrov, Peak, Glock and Della Rosa. We're the first of the lapped cars. Finish a lap down on eventual winner Fernando Alonso, who took the victory comfortably ahead of Jenson Button, Webber third, Raikkonen bouncing back after a poor start of the season in fourth, ahead of Hamilton, Vettel, Rosberg, Maldonado picking up points again. Romain Grosjean, who was the championship leader, is ninth. Jean-Eric Vergne takes points in 10th, ahead of Schumacher, Massa, Perez, Kobayashi, Di Resta, Senna, Hulkenberg and Ricciardo. And then there's us six at the back, no retirements. Della Rosa ends up 2 laps down in his HRT, quite a distance off everybody else. What does that do to the championship? Well, we slipped 2 places to 9th, but Mark Webber takes the lead back, just 2 ahead of Hamilton, 3 ahead of Alonso and Grosjean, who's still right up there, and 7 ahead of Button. That's tight in the top 5. Then it's Rosberg, Perez, Vettel ahead of us now by 3. We are 3 clear of Kimi Raikkonen, who got his first points on the board, but still also, I'd say comfortably for 3 rounds ahead of Schumacher, Massa, Kobayashi, Maldonado, Ricciardo, Hulkenberg and Vergne, your point scorers so far this year. So 17 drivers have scored. Di Resta, Senna, Petrov, Glock, Kovalainen, Peak, Della Rosa yet to get on the board, and Kafka in there, as we've mentioned before, is listed but will only drive should we take Della Rosa's seat, I think, or we move to another team mid-season, which isn't going to happen. We're obviously going to stay at HRT, but Kafka may get a run out at some point. In the Constructors, McLaren now lead by 13 ahead of Red Bull, with Lotus in 3rd, not far behind. Ferrari move up to 4th place. Mercedes are 5th and Sauber are 6th. We remain 7th ahead of Williams, who now move up into 8th. And there's Toro Rosso and Force India. Caterham and Marussia still the only ones yet to score. And I feel that's probably going to be the same for the rest of this season, maybe. China, a more normal race for us. Yeah, one mistake that cost us a bit of time, but I wouldn't say it cost us massively. We didn't really have the pace here in Shanghai, and that showed. But we still beat Caterham, Marussia and Pedro Della Rosa, so at least unlike Australia, we have managed to do that. And the madness in Malaysia really kind of has just given us a nice little boost at the start of the season. And then we move now to Bahrain before we start driving around those European races. And obviously our absolute favourite in Canada. But the first 3 rounds down, up and down this season so far. But it's going to be a fight, even if we are back in our normal spot. You saw there that the Caterhams are, on the whole, probably faster than us. So it's going to be quite the battle to keep them behind us, at least on the road during a race, even if staying ahead of them in the championship, thanks to round 2, is going to be a bit easier. But thank you so much for watching this one. Like, share, comment, subscribe, do all that good stuff. I'll see you for the next one. Take care. Bye for now.